It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. The sky was clear, birds were chirping, and the warm sunlight was bouncing off the sparkling water of the backyard pool. Alex had been looking forward to this moment all week. After a long, stressful week at work, this was the perfect escape. The water was cool, refreshing, and completely his own. He laughed quietly to himself as he dove in, letting the water cover him. For a few minutes, everything felt perfect. The neighborhood around Alex's home was usually quiet. The sound of distant lawnmowers or kids playing on the streets was normal, but today, there was something different. As he floated on his back, enjoying the sunshine, he noticed a figure moving across the fence line. At first, he thought it was just a neighbor walking by. But then, he realized the figure was walking straight toward his backyard. And it wasn't just any neighbor, it was Karen, the HOA president. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her. She had a reputation for being strict, controlling, and very serious about rules. Most people tried to avoid conflicts with her, but Alex had never had a problem until now. Karen stopped at the edge of the pool. Her face was red with anger, and her eyes were fixed on him. "What are you doing?" she shouted, her voice echoing across the backyard. Alex froze, still floating in the water, not expecting anyone to interrupt his peaceful afternoon. I'm just swimming," he said, trying to sound calm. But Karen didn't seem interested in calm. "You can't be here. This is trespassing," she yelled. Her voice was sharp, loud, and full of accusation. Alex blinked, confused. Trespassing? He owned the house. He owned the pool. He had lived here for years. How could this be trespassing? Karen didn't give him a chance to explain. She took a step closer, pointing her finger at him like she was accusing him of a crime. Alex quickly got out of the pool, water dripping from his hair and shoulders. "Karen, this is my home. My pool. I live here," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. But Karen didn't listen. Her eyes were wide with anger, and she seemed determined to make him feel small and guilty. "I don't care. You are breaking the rules. You are trespassing. I saw you," she shouted. Alex's heart started beating faster. He tried to understand what she meant. Had there been some new rule? Something in the HOA papers he didn't read? He opened his mouth to ask, but before he could speak, Karen did something he would never forget. From her bag, she pulled out a gun. Alex froze. His mind couldn't process what he was seeing. A real gun. Pointed right at him. His backyard, his pool, his home, and now a gun was in front of his face. He could hear the blood rushing in his ears, his heart pounding so loudly he was sure Karen could hear it too. "Step out of the pool. Now!" Karen yelled, her hands shaking, but the gun steady. Alex slowly backed up, trying to stay calm. His instincts screamed at him to run, but one wrong move and he could be in serious danger. He glanced around, hoping someone would come out of their house to see what was happening, but the street seemed strangely quiet. Karen's face was full of rage, her eyes fixed on him as if she was ready to punish him for some terrible crime. Alex's mind raced. How could this happen in his own home? How could someone threaten him like this? The situation felt unreal, like something out of a movie, but it was happening, and it was real. He remembered to breathe, slowly, one breath at a time, trying to think clearly. He couldn't make sudden movements. He had to stay calm. "Karen, please, put the gun down. I live here. This is my house," he said, his voice trembling slightly, but trying to sound strong. Karen didn't respond. Instead, she waved the gun slightly, pointing at him, her finger on the trigger. "You have no right to be here. You don't belong here," she shouted. Alex's eyes darted around. Could he call the police? Should he try to talk to her? What if she fired? His mind was spinning. The tension in the air was so thick he could almost touch it. Every second felt like a minute. Every heartbeat made his chest hurt. And then he noticed something else. Across the street, a few neighbors were coming out of their houses, watching the scene unfold. Some looked shocked, some were whispering to each other, but no one stepped forward. The situation was escalating, and Alex realized it was up to him to stay safe until help arrived. He tried again, his voice firmer this time. "Karen, please. I don't want trouble. I'm just trying to enjoy my afternoon. You can't threaten me like this in my own home." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You think you're safe here? You think the rules don't apply to you? You're trespassing. And you will pay for it." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. The calm, sunny afternoon was gone. It was replaced by fear, confusion, and disbelief. He had never felt more threatened in his life, and all because he wanted to swim in his own pool. He looked at Karen, trying to find any sign of reason, any hint that she might put the gun down. But her expression was hard, unyielding, and filled with anger. Alex realized that this wasn't going to end easily. As he slowly backed toward the house, keeping his hands visible, he thought, how did it come to this? How could someone threaten me like this over something so simple? The tension in the backyard was unbearable. Karen's voice cut through the silence, loud and full of rage. "I'm calling the authorities. You will leave now, or else." Alex knew he had to act carefully. One wrong move, one sudden gesture, and this sunny afternoon could turn into a disaster. And just when he thought things couldn't get worse, Karen raised her voice even higher, the gun shaking slightly in her hand, and shouted something that made Alex freeze in shock. This was just the beginning. Alex's heart was still racing. The gun in Karen's hand felt heavier than anything he had ever imagined. He couldn't believe this was happening in his own backyard. The sun still shone brightly, but the warmth felt distant now, as if the world had turned cold around him. Every sound, the chirping birds, the soft rustle of leaves, even the distant lawnmower, suddenly seemed louder, sharper, more dangerous. Karen took a step closer. Her face was twisted with anger, her jaw tight, and her eyes fixed on him like she could burn him with a single glance. "I've had enough of your excuses," she shouted. "You're breaking the rules, and I won't allow it." Alex swallowed hard. "Karen, I've told you, I live here. This is my pool." His voice shook, but he tried to keep it calm. Karen didn't answer. Instead, she waved the gun toward the pool, as if daring him to make a wrong move. The metal gleamed in the sun, and Alex's stomach twisted. He took a small step back, trying to put distance between them. From across the street, a few neighbors watched in stunned silence. No one moved closer. No one dared to intervene yet. Alex could feel the weight of every pair of eyes on him, their fear mirroring his own. It felt like the entire neighborhood had stopped breathing. Karen's hands shook slightly now, though the gun didn't waver. "You think you can ignore the rules? You think this is a free pass just because you have a house here?" she yelled. Her voice cracked with rage, making Alex flinch. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. He had to think clearly. "If I panic, this could go very wrong." He slowly raised his hands in front of him, palms open, showing he wasn't a threat. "Karen, please. I'm not trying to fight. I'm not trying to break any rules. Let's talk about this calmly." Karen laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Calmly? There is nothing calm about trespassing. I should call the police right now." The mention of authorities made Alex's stomach drop. Call the police? What if she doesn't wait for them? He knew he had to keep his distance, but his options felt smaller with every passing second. Karen took another step forward, and Alex stumbled back. His foot hit the edge of the pool, making a loud splash. Water dripped from his hair, but Karen didn't seem to notice. Her attention was fully on him, on her anger, on her perceived right to control the situation. Alex glanced toward the street again. Could someone help? Could someone stop this madness before it got worse? But the neighbors were frozen, unsure of what to do. Alex felt a sinking realization he couldn't rely on anyone. He had to protect himself. "Karen, I'll step out of the pool. I'll do whatever you need. Just put the gun down," he said, his voice almost a whisper now. Karen's eyes narrowed. Too late for that, she said, taking another threatening step forward. Her finger rested on the trigger. The gun was heavy, dangerous, and terrifying. Alex froze. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but moving too quickly could be a fatal mistake. Then, something unexpected happened. One of the neighbors, a young man named Daniel, stepped forward. He raised his hands, trying to calm Karen down. Karen! Wait! Put the gun down! Please, he shouted. Karen's head snapped toward him. Stay back! This doesn't concern you, she yelled, her voice shaking with rage. Daniel took another step, his voice firm but careful. Yes, it does. You're threatening someone in their own home. Put the gun down before this gets worse. Alex's heart leapt with a mixture of hope and fear. Could Daniel's intervention actually help? Or would it make things worse? Karen hesitated. Her finger twitched on the trigger. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her anger battling with something else, perhaps a tiny spark of reason. Alex couldn't be sure. All he knew was that a single wrong move could end everything. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. The sun reflected off the water, making the backyard look almost unreal, like a dangerous, twisted version of paradise. Karen's eyes flicked between Alex and Daniel. Alex's palms were sweaty, his legs stiff, but he stayed frozen, hoping reason would win before tragedy struck. Then, Karen shouted something that made Alex's blood run cold. You think you can scare me? You don't belong here. I'll do whatever it takes to make you leave. Alex knew he had to act. Slowly, he nodded, signaling that he would step out of the pool, but carefully, without sudden movements. He moved inch by inch, keeping his eyes on Karen, and hoping she wouldn't panic. Karen's hands shook more noticeably now. Her breathing was heavy, and her face was red, not just with anger, but with the pressure of the moment. The tension in the backyard felt unbearable. Every second stretched longer than the last. And then, just as Alex reached the edge of the pool, ready to step onto the deck, Karen's phone rang. She jumped, the gun wavering for a split second. Alex saw his chance. His body tensed, ready to move, but he stayed perfectly still. The smallest distraction might be the difference between life and death. Karen answered the phone, talking loudly and angrily, giving Alex the tiniest window to think, breathe, and survive. The confrontation wasn't over, not by a long shot, but for that brief moment, Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could make it out of this alive. But deep down, he knew this wasn't just about a pool, a backyard, or even Karen's anger. Something bigger was at play, and the danger wasn't over yet. The air in the backyard felt thick, heavy, almost suffocating. Alex's heart pounded like a drum, echoing in his ears. Every step he took out of the pool seemed slower, heavier, as if time itself had frozen. The gun in Karen's hand glinted under the sun, a cold reminder that one wrong move could end everything. Daniel, the neighbor who had bravely stepped forward, stayed a few feet away, hands raised. He was trying to calm Karen, but the tension was unbearable. Karen, think about what you're doing, he said, his voice steady but urgent. This isn't right. You can't threaten someone in their own home. Karen's eyes flicked toward Daniel, then back to Alex. Her breathing was rapid. Sweat ran down her temple. Her finger twitched on the trigger. You don't understand. I have to protect the rules. You can't just do whatever you want, she shouted. Alex's mind raced. Protect the rules? She's pointing a gun at me. This isn't protection, it's madness. He stayed frozen, palms raised, trying to look non-threatening. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he knew any sudden movement could be fatal. From across the street, a few neighbors were now peeking out of their windows. Some whispered to each other, others seemed paralyzed by fear. No one dared step forward. The world seemed to shrink to just the three of them, the enraged HOA president, the neighbor trying to reason with her, and Alex, trapped in a nightmare that had no script. Karen shifted slightly, moving the gun so it pointed directly at Alex's chest. Step back, or I swear, her voice cracked mid-sentence, and Alex noticed for the first time that her hands were trembling uncontrollably. Daniel took a careful step closer. "Karen, please. You're scaring everyone, even yourself. Put it down. You don't want to do something you'll regret." For a moment, Karen hesitated. Her eyes darted between Daniel and Alex. It was like she was battling two voices inside her head, the rage demanding control and a tiny spark of reason that whispered caution. Alex used that pause. He spoke softly but firmly. "Karen, listen to me. This is my home. My pool. Nobody is breaking rules here except your own anger. Please, put the gun down. We can talk. Nothing else needs to happen." Karen's jaw tightened. Her face was red, almost purple, with fury. She took a shaky breath. I can't just let this go. You think rules don't matter? You think you can disrespect everyone here?" Alex's stomach twisted. He realized she wasn't just angry about a pool. This was about control, about power, about some deeper need to feel in charge. But the gun in her hand made that power dangerous, deadly even. Suddenly, Karen's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, momentarily distracted. Alex's heart leapt. Could this be his chance? Could he survive this standoff? He didn't move, didn't breathe too quickly, but he took mental notes of every flicker, every hesitation, every small distraction. Karen raised the gun again, pointing it directly at him. "I warned you," she screamed. Alex froze, wishing for time to slow down. He remembered reading somewhere that in dangerous standoffs, staying calm could sometimes save a life. He focused on his breathing, counting slowly 1, 2, 3, trying to steady his trembling hands. Daniel took another careful step forward. "Karen, think. Is this really worth it? You're risking everything over a pool. Over one person enjoying their home." Karen's eyes flicked to him. Her finger quivered on the trigger. For the first time, Alex noticed the fear behind her anger. She wasn't completely cold, completely evil. She was scared, and her fear had turned into aggression. The backyard felt like it had shrunk into a cage. Alex's mind raced, searching for a solution. Should he try to grab the gun? Should he run? Should he speak again? Every option felt dangerous, every word could make her pull the trigger. Then something strange happened. A small dog barked loudly from a neighbor's yard. Karen flinched, her attention diverted for a split second. Alex felt his heart skip. That tiny moment could change everything. He took a cautious step back, still keeping his hands raised, trying to make himself small, non-threatening. Karen's eyes widened at the sudden noise. Her grip on the gun tightened, then loosened slightly. The tension in the air shifted, just barely. It was still dangerous, still unpredictable, but for one small second, hope flickered. Alex realized one thing clearly: this standoff wasn't about rules. It was about control, fear, and a dangerous misunderstanding. If he stayed calm, if he spoke carefully, if he waited for the right moment, he might survive. But one wrong move, one wrong word, and it could all end in disaster. And deep down, Alex knew this was far from over. The backyard felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in on Alex. Every sound, his own heartbeat, the faint rustle of leaves, even the distant chirping of birds, felt louder, sharper, more dangerous. Karen's eyes never left him. The gun in her hand trembled slightly, but the danger it represented was very real. Alex stayed frozen, palms raised, his mind racing. One wrong step, one wrong word, and this sunny afternoon could turn into a nightmare he might never escape. Karen took a slow, deliberate step closer. "You think this is over? You think talking will save you?" she hissed, her face red, her eyes wild. "I won't let you break the rules. I won't let you disrespect me or this neighborhood." Alex's pulse thundered in his ears. He tried to stay calm, his voice steady but quiet. "Karen, I'm not disrespecting anyone. I live here. This is my home. I don't want trouble, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. Please, put the gun down." For a brief moment, Karen's expression flickered. Confusion, hesitation, then rage came back, hotter than before. You think you can tell me what to do? You think you can ignore me? The tension exploded like lightning. Alex noticed her finger tighten on the trigger. His stomach flipped. The entire world narrowed to just two people, one gun, one mistake away from disaster. Then, the unexpected happened. A neighbor's car alarm went off somewhere down the street, blaring loudly. Karen flinched. The gun wavered. Alex felt a flicker of hope. He could see her fear now, not just of him, but of losing control. Daniel, standing a few feet away, seized the moment. Karen! Listen to me. This is not worth it. You're risking everything over a backyard. Step back. Karen's eyes darted between Daniel and Alex. Her breathing was heavy, ragged. The sweat on her forehead glistened in the sunlight. For a split second, it seemed like she might lower the gun, but then she shouted again, her voice trembling with anger and fear, I can't let you get away with this. Alex realized there was no reasoning with raw emotion. Words might fail. Actions might fail. Every instinct told him to stay calm, stay small, and wait for the tiniest opening. Suddenly, Alex remembered the small dog barking earlier. He softly called out to it, trying to distract Karen without moving too much. Hey, buddy, quiet now, it's okay. The dog barked again, closer this time. Karen's head snapped toward the noise, her attention split. Her grip on the gun loosened for just a fraction of a second. Alex saw it. A small, critical window. He moved slightly, not too fast, just enough to show he was ready to step back toward safety. Karen, please, this doesn't have to end badly. Put the gun down, and we can all calm down. For one heart-stopping moment, nothing moved. Then Karen's finger twitched again. The world seemed to stop. Every second stretched, each heartbeat a drum in Alex's chest. The neighbors across the street were frozen, holding their breath. Then, chaos. A sudden shout from one of the neighbors startled Karen. She dropped the gun, but it skidded across the deck, landing a few feet away from Alex. Time seemed to slow as Alex's eyes locked on the weapon. Relief and fear surged together. He could reach it, or he could leave it alone, but either choice felt like it could change everything. Karen stumbled backward, her chest heaving. Rage, fear, and frustration all collided in her expression. Alex stayed where he was, slowly lowering his hands, but keeping his eyes on her. Daniel rushed forward carefully, keeping a safe distance. Karen, step back. It's over. You're okay. Everyone's okay. Karen's breathing slowed slightly, but her eyes were still wild. The backyard felt alive with tension, charged with fear, relief, and disbelief. Alex realized he had survived the closest moment of danger in his life, and yet, the standoff had left a mark that wouldn't disappear anytime soon. He glanced around. The neighbors were finally moving, whispering to each other, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The sun still shone, but the backyard no longer felt safe. It felt like a battlefield where reason had barely won over chaos. Alex knew one thing, this was far from the end. Karen had almost crossed a line that couldn't be forgotten. And even though he had survived this moment, the aftermath, calls, reports, consequences, was waiting. The gun on the deck gleamed in the sunlight, a silent reminder of how close everything had come to disaster. And deep down, Alex knew that the real story wasn't over. The confrontation had peaked, but the fallout was only beginning. The backyard was still trembling from the intensity of the standoff. Alex's chest heaved, his mind spinning with adrenaline and disbelief. The gun lay a few feet away on the wet pool deck, glinting ominously in the sunlight. Karen's face was flushed, her hands trembling, her eyes darting wildly as if she could not believe what had just happened. For a few tense seconds, silence fell. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, a voice rang out, calm but firm. Step away from him, Karen. It was Mr. Thompson, the neighborhood security officer. He had been called earlier by Daniel during the standoff, and now he was finally here. His presence immediately changed the dynamics. Karen's body tensed, her hands still quivering, but she seemed startled, caught off guard. Daniel, relieved but still cautious, took a step toward the gun. "Karen, please. You don't have to do this. Look, no one is against you. Just, let's calm down." Karen's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, trying to shout again, but the security officer's firm voice cut through her anger. "Karen! Lower your hands. Step back. Now." The tension was thick, almost suffocating. Alex kept his eyes on Karen but didn't move closer to the gun. Every fiber of his body screamed to run, to escape, but he knew that any sudden movement could reignite the danger. Karen hesitated, as if caught in a storm inside her own mind. Rage warred with fear, pride battled reason. Her finger twitched near the trigger one last time before she finally shook her head and took a step back. The gun was still on the deck, out of her reach. Alex exhaled slowly, relief flooding through him, but he stayed cautious. The standoff wasn't over until Karen was fully under control, and he knew better than to let his guard down. Mr. Thompson's voice remained steady and authoritative. "Karen, you are putting yourself and everyone else at risk. Step back, now. I need you to calm down before this escalates further." Finally, Karen dropped her hands. Her chest heaved, her face still red, but the gun remained on the deck, untouched. Alex and Daniel exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of survival and the thin line they had just walked. The neighbors who had been frozen in fear earlier now slowly came out of their houses. Whispers and murmurs filled the street. Some were horrified, some shocked, some relieved. The tension of the moment lingered, hanging in the air like smoke after a fire. Alex finally spoke, his voice steady but cautious. "Karen, it's over. Please. Let's not make this worse. Nobody wants this." Karen said nothing. She seemed drained, her energy spent, like the anger had left her body completely. She didn't resist when the security officer gently guided her toward the front yard, away from Alex and the pool. As she moved, Alex realized something important. She hadn't pulled the trigger, but the threat alone had been enough to terrify him. The memory of her rage, the gun, and the chaos would stay with him for a long time. Daniel clapped Alex lightly on the shoulder. "You're okay. You stayed calm. That's what saved you." Alex nodded, still shaken. "I can't believe this happened, in my own home." Mr. Thompson surveyed the scene. "We'll need to report this to the authorities. But right now, the danger is gone. Stay calm. Nobody else will get hurt." Alex glanced at the gun on the deck, still untouched. It was a harsh reminder of how close he had come to disaster. He felt gratitude toward Daniel and the security officer, but also a lingering fear that someone could lose control so quickly over something as simple as a backyard pool. As Karen was escorted to her house by security, Alex finally stepped back fully, taking a deep breath. The adrenaline slowly ebbed, leaving exhaustion and a sense of disbelief. He had survived, but the experience had changed him. The backyard that had been a place of relaxation, joy, and normalcy had been transformed into a battlefield, a place where anger, fear, and control had collided. And even though the immediate danger had passed, Alex knew the real challenges were only beginning: the calls to the HOA, the police reports, and the questions that would follow. For the first time in hours, Alex allowed himself to sit on the edge of the pool, staring at the water. The sun reflected off it, sparkling as if nothing had happened, but he knew better. Nothing would ever feel the same. The standoff was over, but the story wasn't finished. And deep down, Alex realized that this day would stay with him forever, a chilling reminder of how quickly peace can turn into chaos and how small moments of courage and calm can save lives. The backyard was quiet now. The chaos, the shouting, the fear, they all seemed like a distant storm, leaving only an eerie calm behind. Alex sat on the edge of his pool, his legs dangling in the water, still shaking slightly from adrenaline. The sun was warm again, but it no longer felt comforting. The sparkling water that had been his sanctuary just hours ago now reflected a different truth: his home, his peace, had almost been destroyed. Karen had been escorted back to her house by the security officer, but Alex knew this wouldn't be the end. The police would need to be involved. The HOA would demand explanations. And somewhere deep in his mind, he realized the neighborhood would be talking about this incident for weeks, maybe months. Daniel stayed nearby, still tense but relieved. "You handled that better than anyone could," he said quietly. "Most people would have panicked, or worse." Alex shook his head. "I don't feel like a hero," he said. "I just froze. I had no choice but to stay calm." He stared at the gun, still on the deck. Its presence was surreal, metal, cold, and deadly. He could hardly believe how close he had come to disaster. Across the street, neighbors whispered among themselves, casting cautious glances toward Alex's backyard. Some nodded in sympathy, others in disbelief. The sense of community, once warm and friendly, now felt fragile and tense. Alex realized that even after the gun was gone, fear lingered like a shadow. A knock on his front door broke the silence. Alex hesitated, then stood and opened it. Two uniformed officers stood there, calm but serious. "Sir, we're here to take your statement about the incident with Karen," one officer said. "We understand it was a dangerous situation." Alex nodded, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. "Yes, it was. I can't believe it happened." The officers asked questions, took notes, and carefully listened to every detail Alex could recall. He described the confrontation, Karen's behavior, the gun, and the intervention by Daniel and the security officer. Every word felt heavy, as if speaking them aloud made the danger real again. When the officers left, Alex finally leaned against the wall of his house, closing his eyes. The day had been surreal. What should have been a relaxing afternoon in his pool had become a nightmare. He thought about Karen, about how anger, fear, and a sense of control had nearly turned her into someone dangerous. It wasn't just the gun, it was her mindset, her obsession with rules, her refusal to see reason. Daniel sat beside him quietly. "Do you think she'll ever change?" he asked softly. Alex shook his head slowly. "I don't know. Maybe not. But I've learned something. I can't control other people. I can only control how I react. Today, staying calm, that saved my life." He looked back at the pool. The water was still shimmering in the sunlight, calm and peaceful again, but Alex knew it would never feel the same. That backyard, that pool, had been a battlefield, and the memory of the standoff would remain etched in his mind forever. Later that evening, Alex received a call from the HOA. Karen had reported the incident, claiming she felt threatened. Alex stayed calm, explaining the truth carefully, emphasizing that he had done nothing wrong and that the gun had been drawn on him. He knew confrontation wasn't over yet, but he was ready. As he finally sat back on the pool deck, alone this time, he reflected on the events of the day. One moment of courage from Daniel, one calm choice from himself, and the danger had been avoided. But it was a hard lesson. Even in your own home, chaos can arrive without warning. And sometimes, survival depends not on fighting, but on keeping your head when everything around you is losing theirs. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the backyard. Alex gazed at the water, the pool that had almost been the scene of tragedy, and whispered quietly to himself. "This day. I survived it. But I'll never forget it." And even though Karen's anger had subsided for now, Alex knew that the real aftermath, the reports, the consequences, the neighborhood whispers, was only just beginning. The next morning, the neighborhood felt different. Birds still chirped, the sun still shone, but there was a tension in the air that couldn't be ignored. Conversations in yards and across fences were quieter, cautious, almost measured. The events of yesterday had left their mark, not just on Alex, but on everyone who had witnessed it. Alex walked carefully around his backyard, glancing at the pool that had been the center of the storm. The water sparkled in the sunlight, calm and inviting, but the memory of Karen pointing a gun at him lingered like a shadow. He ran a hand through his hair and took a deep breath, trying to shake off the tension. Daniel joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Alex nodded slowly. "Physically, yes, but this changes things. You can't imagine how fast everything can go from calm to chaos." They sat on the pool deck in silence for a moment. The events of the previous day replayed in Alex's mind: Karen's anger, the gun, the intervention by Daniel and the security officer. Every second had felt like walking on a knife's edge, one wrong move away from disaster. And yet, somehow, he had survived. Later that day, the police arrived again to follow up on the incident. They took statements from Alex, Daniel, and a few neighbors who had witnessed the confrontation. Alex explained calmly, emphasizing that he had acted with caution, had not threatened anyone, and that the situation had escalated because of Karen's behavior. Meanwhile, the HOA had been informed, and Karen was now under scrutiny. Alex knew she might face consequences: suspension, fines, or even removal from her position. While he didn't feel joy at her potential punishment, he did feel a sense of justice. Actions have consequences, and what she had done was beyond unacceptable. Alex spent the rest of the day reflecting. The backyard, once a place of peace, had become a battlefield. But through the chaos, he realized something profound: staying calm, thinking clearly, and waiting for the right moment could save lives. Panic would have only made things worse. He thought about the neighbors who had watched silently, frozen with fear. He thought about Daniel, whose courage had helped de-escalate the situation. And he thought about Karen, not as a villain, but as someone consumed by fear and control, who had lost sight of reason in a dangerous moment. By evening, the tension began to fade. The sun dipped low, casting golden light across the backyard. Alex sat on the pool deck, sipping a cup of tea, feeling the cool breeze on his face. The water reflected the sky, calm and undisturbed. He realized the day had taught him a lesson he would never forget: sometimes, danger doesn't come from outside, it comes from the people closest to us, the ones we expect to follow rules, the ones we trust to act reasonably. And survival doesn't always mean confrontation, sometimes, it means patience, calm, and courage in the face of fear. Alex looked around his backyard, his sanctuary restored in appearance, though forever changed in his memory. The pool would still be there, the deck still shining in the sun, but the story of what had happened here would remain, a reminder of how fragile peace can be. And as night fell, he whispered quietly to himself, a mixture of relief and reflection. I survived. I stayed calm. And I learned that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is keep your head when everyone else loses theirs. The neighborhood may never be the same, Karen may never be the same, but Alex knew one thing: he had faced chaos in his own home and come out alive. That knowledge, and the lessons learned, would stay with him forever.